It's the same old thing as yesterday.
Welcome to the House of Pain, brought to you by the ARP Wave Clinic. Now, along with Dennis Thompson, here's your host, the common man, Dan Cole.
Greetings, good morning, and welcome to the 5th episode of the House of Pain here on KFAN. I'm the common man, Dan Cole. With me is Dennis Thompson once again, who's the founder of the ARP Wave System. Good morning, Dennis.
Good morning, Colin.
Let's start out the show like we do every Sunday, and just explain to people sort of in a thumbnail sketch, sort of in a nutshell, what the ARP Wave System is.
Well, Colin, the system primarily is based on the premise that all injury and most pain is caused from the body's inability to absorb force. So what we did is we created a 3-part system. And that system starts with identifying, is the nervous system sending the proper electrical signals to the muscles to where they can turn on fast enough to absorb force. If they can't, then obviously you're going to be hurt. Step 2 is that once you have got the nervous system working correctly, there's probably been some damage caused to tissue that wasn't designed to absorb that force. And so what step 2 is getting rid of that damage, getting rid of the inflammation, getting increased blood supply in there, getting good strength back. And then step 3 primarily is bringing your strength curve back to where it was before you actually got injured. And with those 3 steps in place, pretty much we can resolve most issues.
And how do you accomplish those? What do you do? What is the exact system? What is it?
Well, the system starts again, if you recall, when we first met, we did a test called a muscle test, and that is very, very similar to an external EMG, to make it very simple. Your muscles are the outward expression of your nervous system. So we test the muscle not to see how strong it is, but we test that muscle to determine, is it turning on fast enough to where it can absorb force? It's kind of like a spark plug. Is it gapped correctly? If it isn't, you're not going to start your car. If it is, you're going to start your car. So that was the first step. And you remember we saw the doctor, and she did some manipulations, et cetera, et cetera. And then we went to the second step, and that is, you told me you had pain in the elbow. And, most people just think that where they have the pain is where the problem is. And that's just the furthest thing in the world from the truth. Where you have pain is where the symptom ended up. It's not where it came from. So what we did, if you recall, is we put electrodes on you, and we identified exactly where the origin of that electrical signal was coming from, causing you the pain. And based upon that, we then started treating you. And we started treating you to get the blood into that area and to break your compensation pattern. Most people automatically move away from anything that hurts. So if you sprain your ankle, you're going to move automatically to the opposite ankle. Systematically, you're going to do that. And so we have to break that pattern, because if your muscles don't work correctly, then consequently you're not going to heal right, and you're going to have a problem long term. Then now you're in step 3, which is regaining the strength in your body to be able to absorb force. Keep in mind, if you're like a television set and you have a short in your TV, or let's say the radio here, if you have a short in the radio, it doesn't work, right?
Correct.
I mean, it just absolutely doesn't work. And does it make any difference at all where that short is? No, not at all.
It doesn't matter.
So the body's the same way. We identify where that electrical short is, and then get rid of that short, and now the body works the way it's supposed to.
Now, how did you come up with this system? How did you originally come up with the way to put it together? As I try to describe people when they say, what is the system like, it looks almost like a battery charger for a car, and it's got some knobs and dials on it, and you hook up the electrodes to you. Where does that idea originate?
Well, the idea originated, my mother and father wanted me to be a doctor, and I'm kind of gauging my age now, because when that was present, there was a thing called a mentoring program where an orthopedic doctor would take you under his wing and say, look, I'll pay for your college education if you agree to come to work for me after you get out of medical school. Well, I could never put my arms around Western medicine. It just didn't make any sense to me, because it was all symptom driven. So I began doing a lot of research And I fell in love with the way the Russians did things, and I started reading quite extensively about a guy by the name of Yakov Katz, who at that time was the world's leading neurophysiologist and had created an electrical device to stimulate muscles to speed up the recovery of not only injury, but also to speed up strength development. And that intrigued me, and so I began looking at that. So what we did is we went on a search to find a electrical device in which there are none except this. That's why I bought the company. There are no electrical devices that allow you to actively move while you're being stimulated. So if you go to an athletic trainer or a physical therapist and they use traditional electrical stimulation on you, the standard protocol is turn the power up, you give a grimace, they turn it down a little bit, and you sit there for 20 minutes. Quite frankly, that makes 0 sense. 0 sense, because if you're not moving, you can't break a compensation pattern and you can't get blood into that area. So we just came up with, I think, a better way of doing it.
Is there any type of injury or pain that you can't work on?
No. I believe that all injury and all pain basically is the inability of the muscle to absorb force. So that force goes to tissue that's not designed to absorb force. Your muscles, when they are stabilizing you, you don't hurt. When they're protecting you, it hurts because they're doing their job.
We've talked about this in previous shows, too. With your system, you feel you can prevent most surgeries, too, right? People say, hey, I have a surgery to do, and you can prevent many of them.
I think we can prevent the majority of surgeries unless it's a specific need. And what I mean by a specific need is if you have a muscle that's completely torn in half, or a tendon or a ligament that's completely torn in half, then obviously it has to be put back together. But there are many, many, many tears and slight sprains that do not require surgery, and we can certainly prevent those.
Talking to Dennis Thompson. He's with the ARP Wave Clinic. You can contact him anytime you like. Their website is arpwave.com. That's ARPwave.com. Go ahead and contact Dennis and his staff. Have your questions answered for you there. You can also contact me at Dan Cole or at Common Man at KFAN.com. We talked a little bit about the ARP Squad in previous weeks. Tell us what the ARP Squad is.
Well, the ARP Squad is an outreach program. We have clients all over the world, and we had to figure out a way, how can we prevent them from getting on an airplane and having to fly in and to be treated by us if they want to be treated by us. And so we've created an external force, and we call it the ARP Squad. And they will treat someone either over the telephone, on a webcam. We had some of the guys treating somebody in Australia, India last week. So we have no limitations on what we can do as far as distance goes. If they're closer into the metropolitan area, we'll actually send an ARP Squad member out to their facility and treat them right in the comfort of their own home or the office. It doesn't require any additional cost, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing that the ARP Squad does is they can be available for, say, athletic events, where we can go into an athletic event and loosen up the players, which we've done with many, many, many of the high school football teams. And by doing that, we prevent a lot of injuries.